finally, after all this time, Austin has received exactly what he wanted. On Hollywood.
He has a cat.
Hello, Mittens.
Oh my God.
Ooh. I love you, Mittens. Yes, I do. Do you love me too? The purse says yes.
Yep. Just digging her head into you. She's like, oh.
What a cutie chonker.
Just wait. Here comes Blackie.
Uh-oh.
You're like, what the hell?
This has absolutely nothing to do with what we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely not.
But we are live with High on Hollywood. And
Wait.
What?
There's no screen here.
Yeah.
But we are actually in the same place together.
Isn't this weird?
Holy shit.
And I have a giant chunk in my lap, and it's great. I've never been happier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Today we have we've been isolating for a long time, and now we're finally gathering for a special episode, and hopefully we can get outside maybe even in the future and do some outdoor episodes. Who knows? But
it's we may not be completely 2 meters away, but we have both respected the laws that have been in place for since quarantine has been in service, and there's only 2 of us, so we're only 2 people gathering, so there's nothing really to worry about, and hopefully we can maintain some sort of social connectiveness in these trying times, especially when we do this podcast, because I do like the way we've been doing it.
Yeah.
But something a little more personable now.
Well,
we're in the same room together. It feels less like I'm talking on the telephone.
Also, the internet at our place just did not and could not sustain. So we're hoping to upgrade that. Might even be talking later today about that with T-Bay Tell. So we're hoping to be up and running, and then I won't have to edit out all the awkward glitches that happen in our regular podcasts. The cat would have been in my lap and then gone if this had been not filmed here. So I think
we'll all be doing the robot.
Yeah, pretty much. Wait, what? I feel like Blackie's jealous.
Oh, he's always jealous. He's a suck. But he's not going to jump up on you like Mittens does.
Well.
She's a cutie. Yeah. These are my 2 cats.
There we go. I was holding her up. I was on my tippy toes a little bit. It's keeping her even, but she is a cat, and cats are liquid, so they don't need to be flat.
Nope. And she's quite happy. These are both the friendliest cats you'll ever meet.
It's true, folks. It's very true. And
they just love being snuggled.
Snuggled and coddled. And...
Yeah.
Today's topic of discussion is Hellraiser. And I recently rewatched...
It's not how you're supposed to say it.
What?
Today's topic is Hellraiser!
Yeah, that's true.
Edge into this thing.
Sorry.
This is Hellraiser.
Today's topic. I'm like, I wanted to do like a Doug Bradley, Pinhead voice, but they modulate his voice anyway with, their...
Yeah.
So...
Deep.
Not completely, because you know what, he's been doing, if anybody doesn't know this, he's been doing, or this past year he did, a live Pinhead experience show
no
that
way.
You could go to, and you would be in the room from the Cotton House, so from the opening scene in Hellraiser, and he comes out, and you can have dialogue with him in character and interact with him. You can get him to. I think you get something signed and you get pictures and all that fun stuff.
It's like the Pinhead experience. So you just get your own you do your own little skit and stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and
I like it when you have a person, an actor that takes their character like that out to the fans and says and does something playful with it.
And unlike Robert Englund, who we've talked about before, and how we don't really want to see him come back as Freddy, I implore you to watch the Pinhead Experience videos because Doug Bradley, I think, is still
You can still do it.
You can do it. If you really think about it, it's not that physical of a role either.
But yeah, you're right. He basically just stands there.
Pretty much, and he does this and this.
Raises his arms. Welcome to hell.
Has a lot of epic lines, but realistically, Pinhead doesn't do a lot of the.
It's all in the mind, and that's the great thing about because I've been reading the book as well.
Exactly.
I'm halfway through it because I'm a slow reader.
Hey, me too. I feel that.
But I'm halfway through it now, and the thing about like the cenobites when they come into the room and the way he illustrates it, and the great thing about like when we're going to talk about, because we're revisiting now Hellraiser from the book is literally almost mirrored, besides a few little parts that I remember now.
Well, and the fact that is his name still Andrew in the or isn't it? It's something different, isn't it?
It's Rory.
Rory. I was like, Rory and Kirsty are not father and daughter. They're You know, it's a love triangle.
There's a love triangle.
Julia, him, and Kirsty.
Which is an interesting kind of thing, but no, because in the podcast that you're going to be listening to this last week. Last week.
Yes.
We're recording it this week.
But
we talked about talking about the cat.
We talked about Oh, they're talking.
No, just let her know.
Blackie said something that just pissed Mittens right off. Wow.
What were we saying again? We were talking about
how there's the love triangle.
There's a love triangle, which we said in the last podcast that actually kind of liked the fact that they flipped it.
Me too. I like the change. I like the change to father-daughter. It just adds that contrast between the relationship Julia has to Andrew, and because you get the contrast of an unhappy marriage with this very I'd say fairly happy, healthy father-daughter relationship in the first Hellraiser. It seems very, other than the fact that her father's just super dismissive, he's just oh yeah,
well, but as I was saying, like, because you were talking about the Pinhead experience, and the way he illustrates them coming in, you're right. It's very mental, like the whole thing, the whole experience of being in the schism, that cross between the reality and the nightmare, or heaven and hell, or earth and hell, or whatever we want to call, whatever you call it, because it's called many things. It's to portray that today in this remake that they're not remake. Is it a remake or a direct sequel?
David Bruckner's they're calling it a remake, and I'm thinking it. I don't know, because the story, as you know right now that you're steeping yourself in it at the moment, is very, very. It's good. It's a seductive story. It's very cleverly written. It's the imagery is very haunting, yet it engulfs you at the same time. You just kind of want to devour the imagery. You're like, oh my god, this is just.
And it allows itself for today.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe he is doing a remake, but maybe he's going to be more faithful to the novel. So maybe he'll do the love triangle.
That'd be an interesting aspect.
Maybe we'll get the female. The actual female Cenobite, the engineer. The tongues on her thighs. I still love that. Oh my god! Because it's stuck in my head ever since I read
time. That
opening, because it was like, that's not Pinhead.
Right in there, it's like, wow, who's this?
Yeah,
and it's like Pinhead in the movie, Pinhead was obviously he's the Hell Priest. He's
the Hell Priest,
the main guy.
And he leads them, but.
He's only just an acolyte. He's still just a grunt. He's the leader of the pack.
Yeah. Which, that's what I think I appreciate about the second movie, is that it opens up that part of the mythology where it's like, okay, actually Pinhead and the Cenobites are part of this larger network of Cenobites that are created, who knows how often, by the Leviathan. The Leviathan.
Leviathan, the Greek god.
I love the Leviathan. I love that whole... Well, because I'm addicted to the mixture of Greek mythology and Christian theology.
Yeah.
And this, like, hits all those notes.
Well, Clive, so brilliant.
Because Clive is
he's just brilliant. Exactly. I mean, he wrote the mythology in the book. Can you pass me the book?
Yeah.
I'm going to show you the book.
He's like, he's got the book.
He's got the book right here, Hellbound Heart by Clive. And the thing is, it's he in his writing, he mixed so much literary things into it. Yet he rejects the idea of literary, of the scholarly, taste-making pop culture that goes into writing, right?
Right. Well, and I think he is writing fundamentally about the human experience, literally stripped to its most basic function that compels us on a daily basis, which is sensation, which is feeling something, and knowing that what makes us human is feeling. Yeah. Well, being able to feel something.
He would describe it as like he writes in absolutes.
Right.
So do you think like that's pretty much the assumption of what we see in the book, in the film, the first film. We want to talk because like the second film, which we are going to talk about today, is not directed by. He came in and did some AD work. Far as I know, Hellbound he wrote, but as far as I know, and it doesn't and it doesn't feel like it was hands off completely. It's still a Clive Barker thing.
He wrote the story, but he did not write the screenplay, which is why, as I was saying to you earlier, the writing to me was mediocre, especially compared to the first, which I actually like. A lot of people, that's one thing I actually do remember from Leviathan. I remember how much they hated on Ashley Lawrence as Kirsty. Just really, like, they were like, she gave her performance.
It was a performance.
I was like, hey.
She gave
I really liked her
standing performance.
She got fingers shoved in her mouth for this role, okay? You know?
Did lots of things for you guys. You put her through hell.
And I just, so I was really like, I was happy that she had more to do in this one, you know, essentially.
Oh man, I got so many questions in my head.
Yeah, no, I think in terms of the visual style of the second film, that very much carries over. The visuals carry over and are just expanded on.
It's a lot of the same work from the same people.
But because Clive didn't write the screenplay,
you can tell.
That's why it starts to show and burst at the seams, as some critics like to point. That's what they used.
You know what? And that is a fine point, because between the two scripts, between the two films, it does show a little lack of.
Well, notice there's less of a plot to the second one,
and it was very A to B, you know, A, B, C, right to the end, and it was...
well, and a little confusing, because you think Julie is going to be the villain at one point.
Where's the boyfriend? He's just dropped right from the beginning.
Well, no, because he...
Literally, he went home. That's what the cop said. It's like, we sent your boyfriend home.
And
then she started having a love triangle with the doctor that died.
That's a good point.
Right in the beginning.
That's a good point. Her boyfriend just literally effed off.
Gone. And you don't see him again.
Unless the implication is that somehow he died too, but I don't think so.
No, he literally, from what I can tell, he literally just we sent him home.
Yeah.
It was written completely out.
And then
that's it.
So that just goes to show you that that's a plot hole I hadn't even considered, and that goes to show you, I think, how little the writers were kind of
considering certain things.
We're paying attention, because even the part writing Julia in the way they did made sense to get us to the labyrinth, made sense to have an introduction to the Leviathan. Her death I thought was kind of stupid, because I just thought there was another way that it could have either been done, or...
It was way too hokey.
It just happened way too... Well, and the fact it just slips out of her skin. It was funny.
It was funny. You know what? If you had her as a central villain throughout the whole thing, instead of just throwing in the new Dr. Cenobite, which I did like, and the visual was cool.
Yeah.
But having him as a lackey to her,
yeah,
would have been more believable. Would have been better.
Would have been way better.
Yeah,
it made less sense for him to be.
I mean, because she was always twisting him around the finger. I mean, just have him as a stool pigeon, and that's it. I mean, that would have made more sense. And I like the idea of like the Leviathan is a sweet idea of having this central god Satan figure, leaning over this dark dimension and create.
Notice in contrast to like the Christian God, it's this very cold, logical shape, you know what I mean, that just emits blackness, just darkness, and feeds you your worst nightmares and memories and traumas. Like that's a really like I want to be in Clive Barker's mind, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
that's just
when you leave here you know what, when you leave here I'm gonna give you Cabal,
which I don't have up here. I do have it down south, I think, but I've never read it. Oh man, you got Nightmares and Dreamscapes too. Nice.
Yes.
Nice. That's classic.
Take from my library.
Classic. Oh, I mean, I got a lot. I got lots to read too that I have not.
But yeah, his mind is twisted and brilliant at the same time. It is. He reaches into the darkness of his soul and brings out whatever's there and says, "Here, look at this and examine it."
Right.
This is the human condition. This is just one side of many sides of whatever this is in our body and our mind.
Right. Well, and now I'm thinking out loud. The Hellbound Heart as a novel, to me, reads more as a criticism of heterocentricity and patriarchy in general.
Yeah.
Whereas I think he took the film as an opportunity to show, and why he changed the relationship between Rory and Kirsty is because he wanted to be able to show a positive and non-toxic masculinity to contrast with all of the toxic masculinity that happens. Well, Frank is the toxic man. He is literally the toxic man. Yeah. So and Julia is just kind of used as a symbol of how fragile I think heteronormativity was at the time Clive Barker was writing, because this was still a time when the UK, like, I don't know if they still considered gays illegal, but if they didn't, then it was just kind of it was newly it was just newly legal to be openly gay. Like so
it's becoming, and this was during the time of AIDS. This was during a great scare of
so even
homosexual lifestyles.
It's like even if you could be openly gay, you didn't necessarily want to be either.
However, I'm going to throw this into to your logic here, because I do see where you're going from.
I'm intrigued. Please.
What part of this makes turning that aspect into like the father-daughter relationship is more of an Americanized type of movie?
And also, so it sells it.
Like this, when I read this is a pretty British novel.
Yeah.
Like the setting is Britain, even everything's Britain. When you watch the movie, it's filmed in Britain. But it's supposed to be America, right? So how much does that just say, if I change this one little detail, it will change the aspect so much that it's easier for American audiences to digest.
Right. And that's another fair point. Even though the relationship, and I mean, it's not a perfect father-daughter relationship, but in comparison to the marriage and in comparison to even the relationship between Julia and Frank, it's a much more positive one.
Yeah. I mean, how do you reconcile the ending when it's like when he's in Rory's skin?
Yeah. Or
Frank's in Rory's skin and he's hitting on Kirsty. Exactly, he's trying to have sex with Kirsty in her dad's skin.
This, first of all, you should be dead.
Yeah.
And you're still like not fully done whatever developing.
Yeah, it's just hanging off of you in pieces and parts.
Secondly, you're wearing your dead brother's skin. Thirdly,
trying to sleep with your niece.
That's your niece. Fourthly, you're trying to sleep with your niece in your dead brother's skin while you haven't even fully developed yet.
See, that's some twisted shit right there.
Yeah, that's Clive Barker. That's Clive Barker, folks.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. I think you're not wrong about that also making it more commercializable, because it's like...
Or digestible.
They really, they lost an investor, and who knows? Maybe Clive did a rewrite at that point and was like,
or just
hey,
like I like the idea of exploring it from a different angle. Like I like him taking that choice and saying, you know what, in the book there's this. Maybe that's something he thought of afterwards, because he was writing the screenplay at the same time,
which is what they all say. What? And I'm like, okay.
So it could be just like, this is one edit, when this is another draft, in the original, and he just decided to change it, right? For whatever.
There could be said to be someone who is an auteur or I'm curious. This is kind of a question for
Barker's an auteur, man. He takes detail into all of his projects. Like the reason, have you watched The Art of Horror? Clive Barker's The Art of Horror. No. It's on YouTube. So
Okay.
The Art of Horror. He basically says at the time, because he started off as a writer, so he wrote all his books, and then his books started becoming popular. They Hollywood took interest, started adapting 2 films before it, and I can't remember which ones it was. It was In Charge and some other. It was 2 books, right?
Okay.
That they adapted.
Yeah.
And what happened was Clive was totally pissed off of what they did to the book, to this story. That's why he decided to direct Hellraiser.
Interesting.
He was like, I'm going to direct the next one because I don't want someone messing with my work anymore. It's just horrible. You guys are not missing the point, because they were they were B movies. They were drive-in movies, which by their own merit, from their own creators, has merit, right?
Yeah.
But Clive was just like, I don't want them screwing with this anymore.
No, that's fair.
So that's why he takes his property very seriously.
Oh.
If there is an auteur, there Clive Barker's.
Is
like
it?
that, yeah.
I see. Well, that makes sense. Because I was like, you know what? To me, he's kind of like the ultimate inspiration in terms of,
He has a clear vision.
Yeah.
And it's not that he doesn't like people fucking with his work. It's just that he takes account, right? If you're going to adapt his stuff, you better go to the source, right? You better know what you're talking about, because he's a smart guy.
Right.
He's a smart... Some people call him a beautiful genius, in a sense. He's just a person that just says, it bothers me if you take my art in a direction that's opposite to the message that I'm trying to present.
Right. And that's fair too. And I mean, with Hellraiser, clearly he had things to say, and that's why. Yeah, that obviously played a factor in that.
I mean, I will go down and say it, I'll say it many times. I would never want my art to be adopted by anything that's like a right movement, a right-wing movement. Yeah. I mean, if a KKK member comes out and the guy who, what was it, the damn frog, Pepe.
Pepe, yeah, Pepe.
That guy was pissed, and I was like, you know what, you have every right to be pissed. You can't just do that.
But, I mean, okay. I mean, that raises the issue of, separating the art from the artist, and once you let it go, you kind of let it go. But I think on the other hand, I'd be pretty fucking pissed.
Yeah, I mean, then again, you have something like Hellraiser 3.
He let that happen. He let the rest of the franchise
go. Well, his Dimension came in and bought it out.
Right.
For that, and
I'm sure
he did also... AD work on Hellraiser 3. So he had through bits and pieces. He's always checked in on his properties, right?
Well, if you look at the Hellraiser comic books, he's continued to write and make art in this world for forever.
Yeah, to the day he dies, man. He's gonna be creating art.
Which is why it's really fascinating to me that, because at various points he has been more or less involved with the remake. Just depending on who was developing it at the time. I mean, it was always the Weinstein Company after Dimension. What happened to Dimension anyway? Eventually,
they're just a Weinstein company.
Yeah.
They just kind of like went straight to DVD, and that's it.
Yeah.
You got Dimension Extreme. That's the only logo I see now.
No, yeah, I was gonna say for Dimension. Yeah. So, I think. Holy shit! I lost my goddamn point on that one. But the point is. The point is that with the films, I think he basically kind of. Because I think even with the fourth one, like, up until the fourth one, even with the way that it ended things, kind of, I feel like he definitely had a hand in at least making some of those decisions.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not all of them, because that could have... Some things I'm sure were just a stroke of luck.
I think that's the problem with Dimension. When Dimension came in the 90s and started buying up all these properties, they really did twisted things.
Right.
I mean, they made Halloween Resurrection.
That's true. That's true. Right? Yeah, no, okay. And we never forget. We never forget, folks. I keep reading a bunch of things about Halloween Kills, and I'm really, really intrigued. I'm still kind of on the fence, though, in the sense that I wish this had also been a definitive end. You know? I'm like, oh, shit.
This would have been a nice bookend.
Start another trilogy, but I mean...
It's Hollywood. But this is why we get high before we watch movies, so we can take Hollywood shit.
Yeah. No, but you know, and that's why I'm like, okay, if Halloween can come back as a franchise, like what is stopping you from making this into anything but a beautifully horrifying franchise? I mean, there's so many
you can do it. You can do it.
It's sad that it's taken so long.
Yeah.
I mean, as I've said before, part of the problem was Harvey Weinstein at the head of the table going PG-13. It's like Hellraiser can't be that.
A lot of problems with that company was Harvey Weinstein, and you know what? Now that he's gone, movies can come back to being movies again, rather than just like popcorn, consumerized bullshit. It's just here, take it.
He's gone. Like Perlmutter's almost gone from Disney / Marvel, and I'm trying to remember. I mean,
maybe we can get some integrity back to films again. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be. I just there's definitely films. Just definitely in some ways, at least like blockbuster films, and. Although Hellraiser, the first one, wasn't even a blockbuster.
It's an independent film. It was an independent, which is
nuts.
Exactly. That's what we're saying. It's like this. It was an independent film, and then it became this sensation. Right. And now, because of its pop culture sensation, it's been sanitized and really sanitized into whatever you call it now. Because I haven't even watched those movies. Like I was surprised that it went to 10. The last time I was interested in Hellraiser was 6 was the last one I saw.
Well, I remember watching the first 4 pretty straight through. Mm-hmm. My dad torrented the other, at that point, Revelations and whatever the other new one is, hadn't come out yet. So there was only like 7 or 8 of them. So 5, 6, and 7, and 8. Because the last one was Dead World, which is Pinhead inside of the computer.
I saw that one.
With Henry Cavill.
And that was just like, no.
Just like, wow, this is so early 2000s. And so
the virtual world's like, no.
It was wrong. It was just all wrong. Yeah. And then, and also you could see how formulaic the franchise had become. It was weird. Because it did not fit Hellraiser. It just doesn't. Because even if you really notice, right, like from the first one to the second one, there are still... It expands and complicates the mythology in certain ways. Mm-hmm. And then by the time you get to 3, that's when you start seeing the formula happen.
Yeah,
because they took certain elements from 2 that they liked, where it was like, oh... We can make cenobites now, so let's make cenobites in every movie. Let's just keep making new ones.
Well, that's how you advance a movie, is just take something from the last, what you did in the last one, and just say, okay, we're gonna take this element and blow it up.
That's great. Let's just keep doing that. People love that shit.
And that's why whenever I hear the word sequel, I always debate why, and I always look at sequels as like,
does it merit it?
Is there a reason to continue the story? Should I invest my time? Because like I've invested my time into a lot of different shows over my life, a lot of different stories, and you know what? At a certain point, I mean, you get bored and lose interest at them, like especially with television shows that last longer than 10 seasons.
There's like,
how much story are you gonna tell?
Unless they're only like 30-minute show, like half-hour shows, or 15-minute or whatever. It's like that's a long time. That's like Grey's Anatomy. Like,
oh my god.
I don't know. That's the only one that popped into my head, because I'm like,
that's a long. Well, it's a long show, yeah.
Or if it might have just ended. I don't watch it. People don't.
I have watched it.
That's okay.
I actually have enjoyed it. I enjoyed Grey's Anatomy. It's not a bad show. I like the doctor stuff. The melodrama stuff is disgusting. The doctor stuff is actually well written for a doctor show. It's like something like like a doctor, whatever you want to call it, medical drama.
You don't like the parts where they sneak into the closets and have sex?
It's just like fucking. Come on, just go back to the cancer payment. Let's go. This cancer patient's dying. Yeah. Why are you screwing him? I don't care about your life.
This is why I will always recommend House to anybody, because
I love it. Yeah,
House is fucking. I love that show.
It's a solid show.
It's hilarious, but it's also bitingly hilarious because House is such a fucking dick.
Yep.
And it's so compelling.
Yeah.
And that show also took a lot of like twists and turns that I was not expecting. So I was like, A+, David E. Kelly, keep writing. Also, he's from London, where I'm from, London, Ontario, which is why House randomly mentions London, Ontario in one episode, and then there's another one where he mentions it. And when I watched it with my girlfriend at the time, we were both like, hey! It's like that meme of Leo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood sitting watching his movie, and he's just like, oh shit, there it is! Like, yeah, it was totally like that. So that was really cool. I don't watch a lot of medical shows, but speaking of medical things, there was apparently a scene in Hellraiser Part 2. I call it Part 2 because the fucking title, every time I think of it, it confuses me. I'm like, yeah. He decided to get the title of his novel in there and just
the Hellbound part,
sneak it in there. He's like, come on, we gotta get that in there somewhere.
Why not? Oh, yeah.
It's pretty badass. No, I don't.
I mean, shit. It's the title of the book.
Also, it does make sense for the second movie because they do actually go to hell,
which I liked. You know what? I'm not gonna I don't poo-poo on this movie at all. I don't.
No, because it's not okay, and that's.
It's a good movie. It's to stand next to Hellraiser 1 as a nice sequel. It has a nice flow. Yes, it has plot holes and problems with it, but it's entertaining all the way to the last minute. And I like the fact at the very end with the spinning box, and then you have the traitor in there.
No, exactly. What I also think, it's like, I think what I like about this movie is that it doesn't lose focus on the human characters yet, right? Because it's like, that's what happens later in the franchise, kind of. Although...
yeah, it's more focused on...
kind of just getting to the action and to the, but I think that's what I appreciate about the second movie, is it still very much is paying attention to the characters.
And while expanding that universe.
Yeah.
Which is... actually, I love that whole overlook. When you see the
labyrinth,
the labyrinth,
I know.
Yeah, it's just like the whole thing is just it's.
Well, all it made me think, and I mean this might just be a writer brain kind of thing, but all it made me think was like, look at all the potential, look at all the limitless like what is going on?
Where
in this thing?
Is the stories there?
Yeah. What do Pinhead and the Cenobites do in this labyrinth? And I mean, you can find a lot more of that in the graphic novels and comic books, I will say, but I haven't read enough to really.
I just bought the omnibus.
Nice. Yeah. I own a couple here and there. Some issues, maybe one graphic novel. So I have really sporadic stories. Because at one point, I own part of an arc, which I think should be... This is another reason why I'm like, okay, damn it. there was so much potential for this franchise.
Yep.
There's one arc where Kirsty is basically being hunted by the Cenobites, finally. Because they're like, you've, fooled me once, shame on you.
Yeah, you keep getting away.
And in response, she starts gathering people, other survivors of the box. And, it's a very, like...
I think I read at least an issue of that. Yeah. It sounds familiar.
And I was so, like, jazzed about that storyline. I was like, that's totally cool.
Fight against them, because, like, they're a force of nature. And they will come back after you, because that's their dominion. I mean, the whole allure of the box is to bring souls into it's it's a working gateway to hell.
It's like what Julia said. You feed it souls, and in return,
limitless power.
Basically I think. In return, she was able to traverse back and forth. Yeah. Right? Because technically, Frank did that illegally.
Yes.
Although, that's kind of weird. So how did Frank manage to get away with that, too? It raises some questions, really.
Well, that's the thing. That's probably a plot hole that Clive's going to leak out, because in the book, it's literally a schism. Right. It's literally you're a ghost, and then all of a sudden blood drops onto your spirit, and you basically get rebirth, and it's described as a rebirth.
Right.
You are reborn onto this earth, physically remade and born.
Like
and that's how it's described in the book. Is that it's like almost this. It's almost like stepping through this portal, this dimension, stepping through dimensions and getting reborn.
Right.
In life.
Clive, hit me up, man.
That's a nice Christ metaphor here.
No, that's so true. The spilling of the blood, and the
rebirth
of the spirit
of the Antichrist. Like I was telling in the podcast, it's like it's literally the Antichrist,
right?
Getting reborn.
Well, and I like that they use. I don't know if it's a pig squeal, a lamb crying, or an actual child, but the implication is that it's a child's wail when Frank is formed enough to finally he releases the scream of a child, a newborn child, and it's like, whoa, that is so metaphoric.
And he still needs souls to grow, and he's still so what is this saying about Julia? Because Julia is like very much the beaten down housewife.
Yes.
In the first one. So what does it say about her character in the second one now that she's come through the schism and has this power to allure men and women, because she's it's all women on those spikes.
Although, yeah, that's true. I think I don't know what that was. I think
it's mostly because he's a professor and he can lure college girls.
Well, and he, as a doctor, he was probably like, if I feed her men, she'll get more masculine. If I feed her not, I'll just leave it. Something dumb
that
like
sounds very logic, mansplaining.
And he was an idiot like that anyway. Very self-absorbed, very arrogant.
I want a woman. I don't want a man woman.
Still, the fact that he kissed anytime in either Hellraiser or in Hellraiser 2 where Julia kissed Frank, or where Chennard kisses Julia.
You wouldn't do that? No.
Unless it was somebody that I was like,
I think that's
that I loved, that I knew I loved.
That's the whole idea.
With Frank and Julia, it makes sense, but I mean, with Chennard and Julia, it's like that's just pure lust. On his part.
Yeah, but yeah, it's erotic, but
I don't think he loves her.
Well,
he doesn't know. He doesn't even know who she is until after.
Who said anything about love? I said erotic. Eroticism and love. There's a lot of separation of that.
Loved Frank. Julia loved Frank. That's why she was willing to kill for him.
I don't know. I don't think she loved Frank. I think she.
She loved the idea of him.
Obsessed with his freedom.
Yeah, it was like the freedom he represented.
It has nothing to do. What it is think about the skin. Right. Think what the skin represents. Think what this represents. When you take this off, it's just a mask.
Yeah.
So when she's kissing Frank, and you were saying, you know what? When she's kissing Frank, what you're saying is, yeah, she does love him because he doesn't have skin.
That's what I'm saying.
He's completely bare.
You gotta love somebody if you're gonna kiss some bare bones.
When you're talking about the doctor and Julia kissing, that was not about love. The thing is, what I'm saying is, it's was never about love. It's about the.
Definitely not for Frank. Fortunate.
Or I don't even think for Julia at that point.
Well, obviously it wasn't for love in the second one, right? For her, it was again about freedom.
I'm trying to work this out
agency.
Now. Freedom, agency. Yeah, that's what it is. There's something erotic about that. There's something erotic about power and freedom and agency.
And being empowered as a woman.
Yeah. Taking, like,
well, yeah.
I'm trying to figure out an argument to say she's not in love with him. I don't think that Julie was ever in love with Frank, but the idea of Frank. I think it's the idea, the inner idea of Frank. It's like, cause what turned her on about Frank was skin deep.
Yep.
Was all his body. That's what she wanted. You know. She wanted, and how it's described in the book is it's literally described as rape.
Right.
And she got turned on by the fact that he was raping her.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah, I forgot that's how it's described in the book, and I've forgotten a lot of the little things about the book like that, where it's like,
in the movie, it's
moly,
kind of
that's
like
messed
that.
up.
In the movie,
but it's true because he pulls out a knife and basically, you know,
it's rape.
Yeah,
she's turned. Like, what does that say about Julia? It's like, who wants to be in a place of being raped, but also doing the raping. The reaping. She's literally comes back as death in the next one and does the reaping, taking the souls to the god.
I don't think she wanted to be raped. What I think she just wanted was that freedom.
Pure sight, yeah.
And then I think what you see in the second movie is a trauma echo, essentially. But also, in a sense, her also taking agency, but it does lead her down the path of... She has to confront her trauma again when Frank lures Kirsty to his lair, or whatever you want to call it,
his
writhing.
hell. I will call it
his hell, because he has to...
His personal hell.
All the writhing women teasing
he cannot touch.
It's just, Frank, you sick bastard. I'm glad you're stuck here. Like, oh, God. Yeah, so, I mean, I think, in a way, she... It's like... Because she wasn't satisfied.
Yeah.
And she was with a man who was very ignorant in a kind of bumbling way, not in like a, malicious way. But, the kind of guy who's like, babe, get me a beer.
In the middle the middle class.
Fix my hand, babe. Exactly. Like
middle class whiny kid. He's a kid. He's
an old, he's a man child.
Yeah, and he wanted a mother to take care of him.
Whereas Julia wanted a husband.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I don't know if the husband is the right word.
Sorry, not husband.
To describe
no,
Frank.
That's not, no. And it's not.
She wanted
a partner who she could just grow beside, not a partner who was gonna keep her in a box for the rest of her life and also put her in that role.
Yes.
She wanted to define it for herself.
And what her downfall is, she would kill for that.
Yeah. That's ultimately her downfall, is that she decides that is the length she is willing to go to try and have that life.
All right. It's in Hellbound.
Hellboy, of course.
In Hellboy.
Ron Perlman. No,
when Hellboy steps in from the gates of hell and confronts Pinhead, I would watch that movie.
That would be a good comic idea. Any comic creators who are watching or listening, please take
I'm
it
sure
away.
it's been done.
Hellboy versus Hellraiser.
Yeah.
I can see it on a comic book cover right now.
So in Hellbound, it's her evolution of her character now. What is her evolution? Like, she was in this part of submissive. Now she's in this part of going through the mattress, going through the schism, essentially being reborn as, I would essentially call her death.
Yeah.
In a sense.
It's weird.
She's a reaper of a soul. She lures the souls. Or a siren.
Or siren, I was going to say. Because, she's not a cenobite, which is weird, but she's also allowed to move through the worlds because she is the lure of men and women and people.
This popped into my head.
Yeah.
What about the traitor? Could she be the same person as the traitor?
Well,
that could be how the merchant's box gets around, because there's more than one box. Of course,
Yeah.
there's many boxes,
Yeah.
and the purpose
in this
of the
movie, too.
puzzle box is to open that gateway, to
Mm.
choose people who are exhausted with this plane of existence and are looking for a different one, and you know, those who are worthy gets a pleasurable experience. Those who are not worthy do not get it. Like, we're talking about heaven and hell, so essentially.
Is that true, though? I mean, the way they're presented in the film...
They're presented as, like, the cenobites are presented as archangels, in a sense. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's true.
As
You're
archangels,
right. You're right.
where these are presented as, like, normal, everyday angels looking for souls to reap.
Right.
But this thing is, this is such a weird and twisted idea, because it doesn't say, like...
Well, I mean, even angels kill in my novel, so...
Well, the thing about it is, like, we're being reaped before our time.
That's what so it's not really angelic, it's more, it's still darker.
Are you
than
worthy?
that.
Are you worthy to... I think it's more of, like, the cave analogy, more of, like, an allegory for, like, philosophy to go beyond.
That's the idea. Go beyond sensation, go beyond
and
the
learn
physical body.
All we need to learn.
You know, do you have to become a cenobite to know everything? Is that how you achieve the central realm of knowledge? Well, obviously, serving under the Leviathan, you'd know a lot more about how the universe works than an average human
that's
being.
The thing. That's only one interdimensional beings. How
Well,
many
yeah,
more interdimensional being there is?
And I do know in the graphic novels, they do explore that a little bit more too, and the Leviathan and all that stuff. And that's a question I find myself asking, just in that movie in general, because you only get which is good that you only get a taste, because realistically, you spend too much time there, and it'd be like, this is like I don't know, it would have become too much like a fantasy movie and not but I think that's also what's cool, is like, if somebody had taken that, and instead of saying, let's keep Hellraiser in the real world and keep it as like a mainstream horror franchise, they could have gone the opposite way and said, let's explore the labyrinth. Let's do a weird movie where people get trapped inside of there for the whole movie, and like just explore different ideas inside of that world. Like,
it kind of reminds me of Cube.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. But Cube is really cool. Cube is like,
it's a human experiment.
Yeah. That one's also like, I was gonna say, the ending of that one is really interesting.
But I like that concept of exploring the labyrinth a lot more, because, and then the thing is, you used the word fantasy. I like that idea of the fantasy, because it's the fantastical element that draws me into that place and draws me to explore the labyrinth further. So every time those walls open up, you want to see, even from the first one, you want to see what's behind there, and being able to get to it. And the fact that the one thing that disappointed me about Hellbound is there was no monsters in the hallways.
No. And you know what? That is one thing I will say. So besides what I consider semi-mediocre writing, and I kind of don't like how the Cenobites are kind of dispatched like a bunch of bitches. They're literally they just they stand there and they let themselves get killed.
Like, we're gonna it's like, looks like this big epic battle, and then it's just like boom.
Even Pinhead's final moment where he just like smiles like deliriously at
Kirsty. It's like, what the fuck?
Was that a signal?
Yeah.
I guess. Just like, we got this. Oh.
No, you don't.
You clearly didn't. Like,
it did make them look
kind of weak.
Yeah, very weak.
Super weak.
I was like, I'm no longer interested in these guys. A little bit. It's
that's what happened.
You get this superior intellect guy that's like jetting things out of his hands, eyeballs and teeth. I mean, that's the thing. Like, but it's like they put all of the budget in the end into making the Chenard Cenobite happen. Yeah. And getting all those shots finished. Because can you imagine, like that's why it's so, like, they don't show a full body shot of him too often, because it's I can only imagine how hard it was to harness the actor up and make him, and then to feel comfortable under all that makeup. Have this thing stuck to your head, and then you had to have like a boom.
Fucking chicken wire on your face.
Oh my god, not only that, they're lifting you up, you have a boom on top of this thing, trying to, oh my god.
And then, most of his lines are like,
that's all I can do!
So, I can imagine that wasn't a pleasurable experience for him. No. Particularly.
Well, like, the whole aesthetic of it, of the cenobites are supposed to be... You're supposed to look like you're in complete agony
pain
the entire time. I could see that on that guy.
At least with the other actors, it's all, like... They're not hanging.
Yeah.
They're not, you know, like, they're just stand there and get to look scary.
I mean, the way he was made, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that they saw how the celibate... the
celibates.
The cenobites. How the cenobites are made. Yeah. That is an interesting way, because it's just completely mangled. They just completely replace everything.
We also just never... We never got to see... And, like, yeah, you're right. That was just really cool. Because I was always, it's also just really fucking disturbing. But I mean, and it makes you wonder, okay, what is Cenobite blood? What is that stuff they're pumping into them?
Yeah, they're like
take the blood out,
taking everything out, and
like,
replacing it with something. It's like,
oh my god, it's really horrifying, but it's also really
the order of the gash.
Fascinating. Yeah. Like, oh my god, man,
something stuck in my fucking eye.
Oh shit! I was like, what is going on with you, man?
That's a cat hair.
Blinking at me incessantly. I thought something was wrong over here.
What?
I thought he was dying, folks.
I'm going like this, and he's getting all scared.
Oh.
I'm not throwing anything at you. I'm throwing my eyelashes at you. That's what I'm doing here.
No,
take it.
Fine.
I don't want it.
I don't want it either. No. If anything, I'm sure that this franchise, as a makeup artist, was like. Oh, I mean, same with.
Yeah.
I almost said Friday the 13th. Not so much. Although Tom Savini had a good time with that in terms of like, never mind. That one was
the later ones, yeah.
That one was the kills. Whereas with other franchises, like even with A Nightmare on Elm Street, you get a mix of, I had a lot of fun designing the villain and the kills, whereas, and I find that's the same with Hellraiser, I would imagine, because you get to design cenobites.
Well, the whole aesthetic, even with, like in Freddy, in any of the Freddy movies, the whole aesthetic of the background is intricate and
set
detailed.
Is important too. Dream world, exactly.
And the fact that the first one was made on the first Hellraiser was made on a shoestring budget, and they did what they did.
Well,
it's just,
I think
and
about
with
it all the
all
time.
Practical effects.
I know.
Holy. Yeah,
I genuinely think about that all the time.
It just shows what a little bit of passion.
Yes,
you
passion,
can do with passion.
A lot of good friends who are all committed to fulfilling that vision, and basically, because I mean, all the actors, even the bit actors. I mean, this is obviously not a consequence. We'll say a symptom of the fact that you're all friends and you're working on this kind of fun big project together. It's a horror movie, so that makes it kind of doubly fun because it's just I find horror movie sets tend to be more like depending on the director too. So if you have a really mean or awful director, then you hear stories about or producer in the case of Bob Shea. Or Harvey Weinstein.
They bit their tongues on Bob Shea, man.
Yeah, that's when you're like, there were moments where things were kind of tense, but otherwise we had a good time. But no, on a movie like Hellraiser, it's like you can tell everybody was committed to making it the beautiful vision,
filling that vision. Yeah,
and when you listen to the bit actors, like the guy who played. I'm forgetting the name of.
He's a bit actor. It's okay.
Butterball.
Butterball.
Yeah, the fat Cenobite, or whatever you want to call him. And even Chatterer, and the female Cenobite, who was recast in the second film, actually, I noticed, so that was interesting. But they all talk about the films with fondness, fondness. They loved playing their characters in particular.
It was a lot. It seemed like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just pure fun going to work every day and just be like, I mean, not sitting in that chair. I mean, after sitting in that chair, in that makeup chair for a long time, I'm sure they wanted to have nothing but fun.
Yeah, I was like, you're like, it better be worth it.
Let's get this take, please. I'm not going to sit here all day.
So I'm just going to...
Low battery.
Low power mode. It's okay.
It's okay.
We're still good.
Where are we at here?
We're almost at an hour, so...
Yeah, so...
We're coming along.
Chucking.
It's fine. It's an iPhone XR. This thing holds charge... like it's nobody's business. It is actually one of the longest.
I just want to talk about Hellraiser 2 more, because I think we've spent a lot of time talking about the first. Well, we talked about...
We've blended, right? And I think, okay.
Yeah, because we talked about Clive, and because Clive is a brilliant person and needs to be talked about, and his direction. We talked about quite a bit of stuff. I want to keep focus on number 2, because it's just... because next week I really want to do
dig into 3 and 4,
and I really want to dig into what was wrong with these movies, and maybe because I haven't seen 4 in such a long time, I want to know if it holds up today.
One thing I do remember about 4 is that the editing is really, like, the narrative in terms of its flow is confusing.
Yeah.
It's kind of janky because I know it jumps back and forth between the segments, you know, to the space station, then back to whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like...
it's a historical, like, you know, we're looking back.
But I liked that. That was one of the aspects of that film I liked, so I'm intrigued to see that again. I'm intrigued to see if I can find more to like about the third one, because I just remember not liking it a lot.
I'm interested. I'm interested to see more of the effects than anything.
Actually, I do remember one thing I really liked about the third one, which is kind of just a given in any Hellraiser movie, is Doug Bradley's performance.
Yeah.
Because he gets a solid monologue as a head in the pillar.
That's right. He's a little more time. He gets to talk a little more. It's more focused on him.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm interested in to see if there's more things I could like about it than anything. If I don't like it, well, then we can just flambe it. And
throw
it on the fire and cook it up for dinner.
You know, I just, it is intriguing to me that we could have had, and maybe in this day and age, maybe when HBO Max picks up a Hellraiser TV series and makes it into something super gory and awesome. Oh, screw this guy. Hashtag releasing the Snyder Cut.
Hashtag not interested.
I'm very excited. Very excited to see my Martian Manhunter. No.
He's not going to be there.
He is. He is in it.
No.
They already confirmed.
Martian Manhunter? They already... Okay.
Harry Lennox film scenes.
We're going to talk about
and
this.
We're going to talk.
Let's talk about Hellraiser. Well, there will be opinions on this, but you know what? We can save that for what you're watching.
Hellraiser,
or we can talk.
And I think that on HBO, it could do very well as the anthology series that it will probably be about people. Although I think it could be like the comic books in that you have that arc in the background where, like, you have Ashley, oh my god, Kirsty or somebody like that, you know, a character that's recognizable, trying to solve the mysteries of the box in the background, and then, you know, somehow that leads into all these random anthology stories about random people who are picking up the box, and, you know.
I like the idea of an anthology story.
You know?
I'm interested in that.
Because then what you could do is, for the first few, or maybe the first season, let's say.
You know what? Keep it within seasons.
That's what I'm
full
saying.
narrative within seasons, not just because there's some anthology series is like Outer Limits where it's, you know, show by show, right? Yeah. We don't have to do. I like what something like American Horror Story does, Channel Zero does. Okay. Those
I think it's not bad, but they can't be. What I'm having a problem with, and what I'm finding. First season of Channel Zero was pretty good. It almost went on too long.
Yeah.
This is what I'm finding with a lot of shows these days.
13 episodes is a good solid. Even 8.
But I think they could cut back. A lot of the Marvel shows, for example, way too long. Way too many episodes for the narrative. It's just that if you're not going to shorten the number of episodes, then you really have to add a lot more to the narrative.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
You can't have those space filler episodes too much. I mean, like, you're right, because Jessica Jones was... I enjoyed Jessica Jones the first season, but you could literally take about half of that narrative right out and throw it away. I mean, it revisited the same. That's not Jessica Jones.
No, I know.
But you get what I'm saying. Like, I get what you're saying about some of the Marvel shows, and some of those episodes were just space filler episodes, just to be like, we got to get to the next story point.
And all I'm saying is you couldn't. That is the only danger of doing Hellraiser as a full-length season arc.
It warrants a streaming service.
It definitely
shouldn't be on television.
Does. Well, wait, what do you mean?
Like actual cable television. No, like, keep it streaming service.
100%.
Keep it on. Like, if Netflix does it, it would be, that was almost a stamp of approval, because there's not much that Netflix does wrong. I mean, as a content creator.
What do you have against HBO? I don't understand. I don't get it.
I don't like their program.
Oh, man.
I will not say I never liked their programming. I can't get into their programming. I've tried Game of Thrones, I've tried Sopranos, I've tried, I even got through a couple seasons of, what was it, the LGBT one, the lesbian one. Oh, fuck.
I don't know. It's not Miss Maisel, is it?
Miss Maisel was good, but that's Amazon.
Yeah, it was
but
it was
and
I don't know if she's. I haven't watched that show.
It was a good show. It was a really good. I can't remember the fucking name of it.
Nurse Jackie.
Nurse Jackie was good.
So I don't know if she's a lesbian either.
But it's not even a lesbian. But no. I will find it to you, and it'll be flashing.
Yeah, it'll be on the screen. Don't worry. No.
Make sure it's still recording.
The thing about it is,
anyways, my
HBO.
Sorry. HBO does have quality programming, just not quality programming that I tend to enjoy.
Now, Game of Thrones and Westworld are what I just started Westworld.
I never watched it. I didn't watch Westworld.
Westworld's actually. I think you
I'll
might
give it a shot.
I think you might actually like it, but you might not. I don't know. I'm not gonna. I hate saying that, and then somebody's like, "Oh man, I watched the first episode," and but nobody's. And I feel like people aren't ever honest with me about that kind of thing. So I'm like, you know what? But if you watch it, let me know if you like it.
I will. I mean, it's not. It's hit or miss. Like, especially with some of the more grounded, more grounded television.
Right. But why I'm excited about HBO and why I think HBO is a good home for Hellraiser has nothing to do with other things they've produced in the sense of narrative or storytelling, because this Hellraiser show will, I hope, have its own set of writers, its own, I hope the whole creative team is separate from like they'll be their own thing. It's not going to be like Westworld. Although Jonathan Nolan working on Hellraiser, I mean, that probably wouldn't hurt. But it's not going to be those creators, right? So it'll be its own thing. It's not going to have the flavor.
I get that.
But they have the budget. That's what I love about HBO.
I'll give
the budget to
HBO and AMC can do it too. I mean, I'm just saying, keep it on a streaming service, and you don't have such restrictions.
Yeah.
As other places do. I mean, there's the TV rating system is kind of very, very horrible to certain places for certain shows, and they slot them in the worst fucking places. And this is why traditional cable is dying.
Yeah,
it's just terrible as a streaming service platform. So it's like, I'm interested in seeing what it is going to be potentially. Who develops the show is not more important than actually its creators, the showrunners, because the showrunners is what. For television, the showrunner is the guy who puts the stamp on the approval. It's not the fact that it's HBO or Netflix or anything like that. It's literally who's running the show
during the show, right?
Yeah. I mean, like Eric Kripke, fucking bottled lightning. And then put it on the CW.
Yeah. I still to this day. Well, I mean, the first 5 seasons are solid, and then you get the real melodrama, and then it's like, how many times am I going to watch these fucking guys die again and again? Also, who's this person now?
After the first... It kind of got back on itself after season 10 again.
I will say, once it got into the later seasons again, it was like, okay. Like, after they...
Well, they knew what it was.
Yeah.
It took five seasons to figure out what it wanted to be again.
Well, basically, as soon as Lucifer came back into the equation, things were... As soon as it was like, oh, Lucifer, the Antichrist. Okay, that's cool. All right. We haven't done this yet. Like that. Lucifer had a son. Cool. Alternate dimension. What? I didn't really. I'll admit that season I didn't quite enjoy all that much because I was like, of course they had to go there. They had to jump the shark finally. Even more
much.
than they already had. So
I mean, how much more it's like other than to introduce aliens, and they didn't want to do that.
No, apparently, although that you know what. It basically was probably between those two things, realistically, because they've hunted everything.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much. And it always felt like that was the one thing just on the cusp. Especially in the first few seasons where it was still very horror.
Yeah. It was the creature of the week, and it was always a new creature with a mythology. Yeah. And then after season 5, it was turned into, like, we already know all this, and now we're just going to give them extra powers.
Yeah, pretty much. Also...
Oh, and we're going to give them alphas.
yeah, and alphas, and, it's like in video games when you fight one big guy, and it's like, okay, good, and then all of a sudden you get to the next big guy, and it's like, this is that guy.
It's always a bigger fish.
Yeah, it's like... No.
Liam Neeson's most famous line.
There's a big fish. But that's ultimately another thing about Hellbound Hellraiser 2 that I liked, was that you got, and I mean I already said this, but that you get that introduction to the big fish, as you know,
but
if
it's
you will.
so wasted in the other movies.
Yeah, and that's what I mean, and that's why, okay, earlier when I mentioned the fantasy thing, I wasn't saying that it was a detriment to explore that. What I was saying was, within the context of the film as it's structured in Hellraiser 2, they spent the perfect amount of time there. Yeah. Because if you couldn't, it's like when they were making Green Lantern and they were trying to debate between,
how much time on Earth and how much time in
space.
Oa. Yeah.
And they always do that with movies like that, or characters like that. And it's like, listen,
do the whole thing in a fucking Oa. I mean, it'll be fine.
They just don't trust audiences.
The problem with that movie was parallax.
Yeah, let's jump to the Justice League level threat that is, yes, a nemesis of Green Lantern, but is still a Justice League level threat.
And the fact of the matter is, if you're gonna do parallax, then you do it the right way and put Hal Jordan as parallax.
You infect him, which would have, even if
and he becomes the villain.
So what
against
if
the Justice League?
Yeah, or, because I was gonna say, or if you still want to do that as a first film, right? You could have him be infected at the start. Have him get the ring at the start, or do a quick origin thing, skim through it, kind of do one of those montage things, and then just be like, you got infected, and you do the whole movie about
that. Hellraiser.
Green Lantern to Hellraiser. Well, it's because
Green Lantern versus Hellraiser.
Hellraiser is a franchise, and a film franchise that specifically has lacked on the film side.
Yeah.
In the past decade.
Yeah.
2 decades, for fuck's sakes.
Yeah.
And yet it has so much of that potential and so much of that artistry imbued in it, and in its the creation of its world and its inner workings that I find, and characters that are compelling and that continue to fascinate me and suck me in. But despite that fact, it still frustratingly is not present on the stage of great franchises right now. It's not up there, and I'm not saying this in terms of horror pop culture, because of course, you throw up a picture of Pinhead, people are like, oh, Pinhead, Hellraiser.
Yeah.
But how many of those people too, you wonder, have actually either seen Hellraiser or even know what it's really about, and are just, because I did that as a kid all the time until I finally saw Hellraiser when I was 16. I would just be like, oh yeah, Pinhead.
Everybody knows
from Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Until
you know exactly, because he's very noticeable.
And I think at points this franchise had writers on it who did not watch previous movies nor read the Hellbound Heart and were just like, Pinhead, Hellraiser.
Yeah.
Well, the thing shows.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely shows.
Yeah,
those movies, it's
once you get past,
I don't know,
it's
I need to learn a little bit more about the production of those movies to fully say that.
I know, and I can't say that definitively. It's true, it's an assumption.
But you know what? I've seen a couple of those sequels, and a couple of those sequels were just this is way out there. But that's studio influence. I'm pretty sure a lot of that was studio influence, not actual creation.
Were they even? I mean,
were they allowed?
You'll find out. But I think what happened, especially, so there's one film. It's about a detective investigating a series of murders. Turns out that it was just people opening the box, and in the end, he opens the box.
That was
6 or 7.
Yeah, Inferno or something like that. I remember.
Yeah.
That one,
And it was good, but you could have taken out the ending with Pinhead.
Totally.
And
it would have been
just I'm
pretty sure that because films have done that before. We're just this movie won't sell. We're gonna slap a name to it.
I was like, and then they get somebody to do a quick rewrite, or the writer to do a quick rewrite where they're like, hey, can you write the franchise characters into this so that we can sell it as this movie?
Yeah.
Which is probably why that ending with Pinhead was so tacked on. Because before that, the whole movie is literally just.
That. I mean, you can. That's studio influence, though. That's what I mean by you can totally see that wasn't.
They couldn't sell the movie on its own.
On its own merit, so they got to throw in Pinhead to try to help boost some sort of sale.
Right.
Which saved a movie. That
in a sense,
someone's creation,
right? Someone's story got to be told.
In that sense, I mean, I as an artist, as a writer. I kind of respect that. I have not even kind of. I definitely respect that. Is it good?
Oh, yeah.
Is it good storytelling? No. But
no, it's what it is
yeah.
is a good concept that I think, because I just thought of this now, I'm like, you could even, David Bruckner could just take that general plot idea and do that too. There's just, I think there's really something to be done with, at least a more, it's kind of like the cop in the Sinister movies too. You know, I want to see somebody hunting for the secrets, hunting after, trying to find a way to defeat the cenobites, trying to kind of, you know,
some sort of explanation, try to definitively and ultimately can't.
Yeah.
You can't fight the cenobites.
No,
they're a force of nature. And that's kind of their element there. They have to be a part. They're part of the world. They're part of the very foundation and makeup of time and space in itself. They're there.
But I mean, if these things, these puzzle boxes and this legend exist, if this Le Marchand figure existed, then it's like, it makes sense for people like Dr. Chenard to be out there. And I think that's ultimately what I always find fascinating. Is just and that's why I want there to be an anthology series where we see different people pick up the boxes, because I'm like,
looking for the box. Yeah.
I just really like,
you can have the
kind of the why,
the trader there all the time.
Yeah.
Or like the Julia character. I think I like that idea of like the Julia character being now she has to.
Well, and I believe
be that person with the box, the trader.
I believe there was at one point the thought that Julia could become the franchise villain, but that fell apart fairly quickly. Either in rewrites or you know, just the studio being like, female villain, no, we don't really want her. As when we got Pinhead, the iconography.
Pinhead's badass.
Yeah, well, yeah. Pinhead's metal. Okay, you know.
Just look at him.
No, so I think Julia had a lot more potential, and she just kind of got shafted at the end of Hellraiser II. It would have been nice to see a trilogy really where, because this was something I was going to mention earlier, and I don't think whether or not it was
my
intended
res-filled lungs.
Damn, sir. Julia redeems herself because she basically saves Kirsty and what's her face from Frank. And
yeah, that's interesting.
The only reason she dies after that is because the gap opens and sucks her down. Like,
yeah, she could have been redeemed.
She could have.
There's
been
some
redeemed.
sort of redemption there. A third story.
Hell, she
focused on her.
She might have even let them go. You know what I mean?
Might have.
Maybe. I'm not going to say that definitively because it's still Julia. But I mean, at the same time, all she wanted was freedom. And really, Kirsty was the one who hated her because, I mean, yeah, she did kind of let your uncle skin your father alive. And then wear his skin. There's a lot to be mad at Julia for.
What the hell?
Yeah, come on, forgive her already.
Fuck, she's your mother.
It only happened like last week, literally.
Literally. I think it literally happened yesterday. Yeah. And it's like, how the fuck are you here again?
Yeah,
I beat you.
That's so true, though, right? I feel bad for Kirsty when she encounters the cenobites again for the first time, because it's literally such a like, oh man, now they gotta kill you. But you know, obviously, they don't get the chance. But it's one of those moments where it's like they don't have feelings until you show them pictures of themselves, apparently, before they were turned into cenobites.
Yeah, they remembered themselves, which
is a compelling thing too. You know, I think there's more to be explored there in terms of why did Pinhead hesitate? What happened in his Cenobite brain? You know,
maybe we weren't supposed to be there's a lot to even say about the dimension. It's a dimension in and to itself, so it's obviously like not this. It's a concept of hell, or we claim to be hell. So it's this actual physical thing. Mm-hmm. It's another world, right? So maybe the mind control thing of becoming a Cenobite doesn't truly strip you of your humanity,
maybe,
of yourself,
at least autonomy. You know,
what does that say about the self? Is that you can't completely be stripped of the self, of your identity, because your identity is who you are.
Well, and I mean, Clive came up with the story, so I can only imagine that. Well, now I'm curious. I need to finish watching Leviathan because I'd like to know whether or not... Because what I feel is there are two endings to this film. And what happened was somebody didn't like the ending with the Cenobites sacrificing themselves to defeat
I need to figure that
Chernard.
out too.
Because I want to know if the humanity of Captain Spencer and that whole subplot, I want to know if that was Clive or studio/director/ other influence, or if Clive was I have to finish the puzzle ending, with the Julia skin being worn and all that, because that. But to me, because I don't know which feels more like a.
Which I like that ending. That's a nice ending.
Yeah, no,
but the
it's
fact
cool.
that she's wearing a skin was like.
That was a cool deception.
That was a cool deception. But
Gross,
yeah, I also like
cool.
the. I do want to know what's the idea of the humanity, like showing that sense of humanity.
Because I feel like that was what was originally. I feel like
there's something there.
It wasn't supposed to be a fake out initially.
It really shouldn't have been a fake. It was a bad fake out because it was
just awkward. And it just ended up being like, oh man, those characters
and now they're gone.
Like, oh. It can't be sad. I mean, they were lifeless. Well, not lifeless, but they're not evil either. Just
I don't know. I would deem them evil.
Cenobites aren't evil though. They carry out the work of the box.
That's true. They're just soldiers.
They are summoned to a place. It's like it's literally a metaphor for sex, right? Once you have engaged in the do, you
do the do.
You've done it. And if you don't wear protection, you've made a choice.
Yeah.
You know? And in that case...
Is that a good metaphor or a bad metaphor?
Basically, no, okay, the box, sorry. Not just sex.
What is it about
consent.
sex?
Consent in general is what the box represents. Consent. You give them consent as soon as you open the box.
Yeah.
It's like a Pandora's box. You made a choice.
True.
You gave them consent. So they're going to come in and...
fuck your shit up.
I was going to say
but they're going to fuck up your day, man.
But to them, it's more of...
Well, the thing is, what if you're worthy? If you're worthy, you get the pleasures that they can be offered, right?
But then don't you still die?
Not what happens in the... Well, what happens in the book is that the engineer just kind of like amps him up to like 100% to the point where he couldn't take anymore. So it was like... On certain times, it was like non-stop pleasure and then a non-stop pain.
Yeah.
And thing is, to a sadomasochist, that is like heaven.
That's true. But that's what I'm saying. Ultimately, I think what they represent is that if you choose pleasure... Yeah, I don't know. Because I was going to say if you choose pleasure, but I don't really know where that's actually going. Because I'm like,
it's a hard one. But it's a good movie nonetheless.
It is.
I mean, the philosophical ideas of this movie is... I think we kind of said it all in the last pod and plus in this one.
Well, and then with the second one, it's a little...
It's more commercialized. It's a little more sanitized.
More commercial, but I'm still wondering which was the more... studio ending or the more cliche ending at the time.
Well, the one that was written, the one that was shown, not the one that was written.
Right, but I'm thinking like at the time, would the ending with the Cenobites standing up to Chernard have that probably wouldn't have been cliche at that time, because I feel like not a lot of horror movie villains were suddenly redeeming themselves at that point in time, because it was still a lot of Freddy and Jason and Pumpkinhead.
What does that do? Like, honestly, if that would have happened, all right, if that were to happen and it ended with the Cenobites redeeming themselves, there's no more franchise.
There already wasn't, though. They still get killed. So, and you still could have had the pillar at the end, or something like that. Actually, the pillar was fucking stupid. The way it was done, just such a crappy effect.
It was the skeleton.
And the skeletons humping each other like.
There's a fucking like
is a Halloween story? Yeah, I'm like, oh my god. At least that was bad, man. And even just the shot of it coming out of the mattress was stupid because it just didn't look.
It just looks, and
the guy just
that is bad, yeah. That was the thing is how are you going to have a third movie now? So you have to throw that in. And it seems, the thing is, if, let's say, Pinhead redeems himself, there's no need for him to be Pinhead anymore.
Right.
So where does the franchise go after that?
The third one does kind of explore that, though. From what I remember, she does somehow travel to the past and talk to human, like Captain Spencer, his human side, and learns more.
Honestly, I forget more of this movie than I.
That's fair, but I do remember that happening. I think there was a lot more story there to tell, and it had potential. But considering the fact it kind of peters off after the third and fourth one, I also feel like maybe in that case it wasn't Clive's inclusion in the story and was a director or a producer choice or a writer choice.
Without hearing it from the word's mouth, we're never going to find out. We can only speculate. I mean...
But just because I could imagine him being more like... making more of a final ending. And I think the Kirsty... Julia skin wearing and saving the girl scene is very of Clive, very characteristic. Whereas, obviously the Pillar was a studio slash production choice.
The thing is, like all the way up to that point, you still have to finish off Kirsty's character, right? Her arc and her story and how she's finally released, right? She's finally free.
She gets into a car crash in like number 6.
And dies.
It's like, that's a way to treat a legacy character.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, no, because that's what happens to her eventually.
Kill her off.
Eventually they get Ashley Lawrence to reprise her. That much I remember.
You know what? It's not canon. We don't have to accept it.
Yeah, not canon. Didn't happen. No way. Jose. Anyway, I think, you're right. We've said pretty much all we can say about 1 and 2. I'm excited to talk about 3 and 4.
Me too.
I still recommend 1 and 2 to anyone, and especially as like if you're gonna like watch this franchise, just like watch 1 and 2 back to back. Wait a little bit, then watch 3. Then wait like a month, then watch 4. No, not a month. Actually, watch 4 right after 3.
You can watch 1 to 4 back to back.
Yeah, pretty much.
But don't bother watching the rest.
That's fair. That's actually fair.
That's me.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, thank you for watching.
I forgot there was a camera here.
There has been a camera here the whole time.
Holy shit.
Glad you didn't reveal any of those secrets you mentioned earlier.